Well, hello, and welcome to. Normally it would be Ladies Listen Up, but today we're going to talk about or talk to, speak to Oasis Wellness of Life, which is the overall wellness of life. And we have both male and female subscribers, right? So we want to make sure that we address both, especially in today's episode. I have many people that are asking questions about triggers, and it took me a minute to actually pull this together and say, this is a subject that I keep hearing about and that people are asking to, for some more information, right? And I always go into the fact that I am not a licensed therapist. I am actually a naturopathic wellness coach, right? We do everything natural. So meaning, by means of, helping our bodies to overcome a challenge, right? Overcome the challenge, whether we're using herbs or by nutrition, right? Or by giving ourselves enough water, by putting the proper things in our mind, setting the proper atmosphere. So all things are natural, right? So before we get started today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. We have 10 playlists out there. I'm sure something in there is going to kind of talk to something that you may be dealing with or you may want more information about. And oftentimes it's good to have a different frame of reference, right? Because if we're stuck in our own frame of reference about things, how are we going to get new information in to help us to pivot and change some of the things that may be causing us to be triggered, right? So let's go ahead. Ooh, let me grab a little sip of the tea here. Ginger caught me right here, y'all. Ooh, right there, right there, right there. Caught me off guard. Anyhow, we go to Grandma's cookie jar because Grandma's cookie jar had all of the great recipes, and not just the great recipes, but there was a sprinkle of sugar on some of the cards, some of the recipe cards. There was a dash of lemon or some vanilla, or ooh, my favorite, some ginger. So it was sprinkled with some good wisdom. Is what I'm alluding to. So in Grandma's cookie jar today, it says, "Do your thing." Well, do your thing, right? And the other side says, "Own your power." Ooh, and that really does fit into today's topic of triggers, right? And so as I was doing my research and pulling up information, even some archived information about triggers, right? I came across a couple of newscasts where Prince Harry, he talked about what triggers his anxiety, right? It was one of my references came from ET Canada, right? But this is the thing. Oftentimes we use alcohol or drugs to cope with self-medicating when we have unresolved traumas, right? Unresolved trauma, unresolved grief, unresolved loss, whether it's by loss of death, whether it's by loss of divorce, loss, right? And oftentimes it will uproot and change our whole situation, whether it's our financial situation, our living situation, our atmosphere, our life, right? So if it's unresolved and it stays in, sometimes we think, okay, we're dealing with it. Because oftentimes we've been told, you know, would you want to talk to your issues or your challenges with somebody else? Keep your business in your house, right? That's what we are brought up to think, right? But if we don't process through the traumas, then it will manifest itself in other ways, meaning, angry, short tempered, rage. It will even manifest itself in physical conditions, right? And oftentimes we talk about in some of our naturopathic studies, we learned how, toxicity, emotions are toxic. And that was one of the things, sometimes you have a barrier against like learning something. I was like, well, how is something emotional going to cause me physical issues or challenges, right? And it was explained to me this way. When you get on a roller coaster and the roller coaster goes up and it's going chicka, 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 chicka all the way to the top. And then it sits on that top. You have all of this chemical reaction going on in your body with all of these different hormones that are being released, right? We have this adrenaline rush, this flow that pushes, right? They even talked about the chemical reaction that takes place when you fall in love, right? Or fall in lust, right? There's a chemical reaction that goes on that's even stronger than the effects of even taking cocaine that strong, right? So it was explained when you get to the top of that roller coaster and it goes plunging down to the bottom, right? There is a chemical reaction that goes on inside of us where we get tight, right? And then as you plunge down, man, oh man, right? We get that, all the different hormones going on inside of us, right? So that's when it dawned on me, man, a chemical reaction can manifest itself physically, right? So sometimes you cannot feel good. If you're really stressed and tight in your shoulders, if you're really tight in your shoulders, it pulls on your head and you can get a headache from that. So what are the triggers, right? Not getting enough sleep can trigger. Stress can be a trigger. Social gatherings, sometimes we can get, sometimes some people, and it depends on your personality type too. Some people are, they're so excited, they're social butterflies, if you will. Some people are introverts, right? And so being in their own surroundings, with not a lot of things going on can be soothing and calming for them. Some people they release by going out and being the life of the party and they feel so much more relieved when they get back in. So, it just depends. So social gatherings can also be a trigger. Caffeine is a huge trigger, right? Messy home environment, that can also be a trigger. Not even just a messy home environment. What about a messy office, right? People say, oh, I know what's in that pile. I know what's in that pile. I know what's in that pile. But studies have shown that if you have a more neat, organized environment, then you will, and I need to silence that. We've had some I'm not gonna say bloopers, but we've had some dings going on today. But guess what? We're gonna keep going. We're gonna fight through the day. This has not been one of those smooth days, y'all. But this is one of them days that I'm gonna lead by example. I'm going to press on, right? So we talked about the messy home environment. We talk about self-neglect, right? If we're opted out of self-care, right? That also can be a trigger. A big event or a buildup of smaller stressful situations can also be a trigger, right? We talked about the death of a family member, work stress, ongoing worries about finances can also be stressors or triggers, right? And so when we know or can identify what those triggers are, we can now put a plan of action together to help us process through those triggers, right? I also talked about where where personality types, some personality types are more prone to anxiety disorders than others, right? So really getting to know yourself and getting to know your boundaries. So sometimes people crossing over your boundaries can also be a stressor that can trigger you, right? And sometimes if you have not, or oftentimes if you have not processed or dealt with those triggers, then you may react in a way where it's not conducive to your personality, but it's also not conducive to the better outcome, right, of the situation. Because you can have a certain person in your life that can also trigger you. I know I have people in my life that are triggers that now I know that I have to keep them, a little bit further away from me than right up here because they will trigger you, right? And all relationships are not meant to be right here, right? All relationships are not meant that. You can't kumbaya with everybody because people, I always say spirits transfer, right? And for me, different relationships, different personalities, or what have you, you deal with everybody differently. So understanding that about yourself and understanding how to process it. What does it look like, right? So processing is, it looks like things that you feed yourself or feed your soul, right? Conversations that you have, right? And sometimes just talking it out, having that one sister girlfriend or male, associate friend that you can go and that you can talk with and that will give you honest feedback, right? That's always a healthy relationship. And sometimes you might have to step it up and take it to a therapist. But also remember, if you're going to a therapist, interview them, you know, interview them to make sure that their personalities is conducive and their methodology is conducive to your better outcome, because right now in this, it's okay for you to be a little bit self-centered, right? Because you being on the best way, or you being in the best healthy mindset, is going to be better for everybody, right? Taking walks, exercising, huge, because it helps to burn off the toxins, right? And it helps to create a less toxic environment internally for yourself. We didn't even think about that, right? Even stretching your neck. They talked about it on one of the episodes, how doing exercises in your chair, like, just doing exercises to make sure that your body doesn't stiffen up and that you're releasing the toxins. That's the name of the game. And that you're drinking enough water to release those toxins, right? And deep breathing. We do a lot of shallow breathing, right? We're always in a rush. We're in a hurry. We condition our bodies to do this shallow breathing. But guess what? Deep breathing. Even if you take 5 minutes out and take a 5 minute vacation away from everybody and everything, it'll help put you in a better mindset. Getting a way to sharpen the saw, right? I hope we're using our journals and making sure that we're writing down these things. So this should be in one of our self-care journals, right? We talked about that. This is my journal that says faith over fear, right? And this is my personal journal. So you want to make sure that you are journaling as we're going through these different steps. That really makes a difference. I'm telling you, when you write it down, sometimes you think you're going to remember. You may not even, hopefully you watch till the end, but oftentimes people just get that first couple of minutes and they are going about something else, right? Because our attention span is so short nowadays. We have so much information coming at us, right? Also, what we read, what we pour into ourselves, meaning what we read, what we watch on TV, or what we watch on the computers nowadays, right? All of this makes a difference, right? And it's nothing just by happenstance, because if you just go out there and you just watch, if you you're just feeding yourself whatever's out there. One other thing too, I love that Prince Harry talked about what triggers his anxiety in that report when he talked about those unresolved traumas, unresolved grief, and loss. Those were the things that he talked about. It was only a 3 minute clip, but I know that he has been, I want to say an ambassador, if you will, for, mental health, and just a shout out to, I know they're going through mudslides in Montecito, right? And I am, prayerful that, everything, I know they're doing evacuations because of the mudslides and everything. And I know that's where, he and his wife Megan, that's where they reside, along with Ellen DeGeneres and Oprah Winfrey. So just positive thoughts and prayers and best wishes for them as they are working through that process, or whatever that evacuation process looks like. Bottom line is for health and safety, right? So just looking at bringing ourselves to a more peaceful place, right? When we get ready to shut down at night, one of the great things is to take time to settle your environment. That means bringing everything down. Whether, like me, I love jazz and I love, jazz music, and I love the saxophone and the piano. Let me tell you, that does it for me. But to bring your environment, to bring the room down, turn the lights off, make it, even if you have to go in and you have to, take a nice hot shower, burn some candles, or, set the mood, make sure that the room lights are low and there's no computers and we're not flipping through the phone, right? Because all those things are distractions from us coming to a peaceful place, a center place. And lastly, if you don't have peace in your spirit about something, then it bears a second thought or a second look as to why, right? Don't be afraid. Ask those questions, whatever it's going to take to put you in the best healthy position or place. So I hope I covered the triggers. I think, I said lastly, but one final thought, truly final thought. Forget about what other people are saying. Forget about what other people are thinking about you. If you say that you feel triggered and you need to back off, then they need to honor that and back off. Or you need to put yourself in another situation where it's recommended that you put yourself in a better situation. That person should be able to understand without criticizing, without, the name calling about being, weak because you are triggered. No, that's the problem. And that's why we haven't faced our mental health issues, and we have, tragedies that happen because we have not faced our mental health challenges, because there's some stigma placed on mental health that, something wrong with you. Well, if you snap your finger or your arm out of socket, you're going to go get some care for that trauma. Why not get care for the trauma that you may not even have caused yourself to be in or to have experienced? You could witness something and it caused a trauma that you don't even realize that you're healthy and that it's stored in your body and your cells and your memory, right? So today was just to address triggers, right? And a lot of people go through the triggers, but they suppress. And I'm just, just being prayerful today that we will learn how to get help for those triggers so that we can live an overall wellness of life, right? But it starts here with your mindset, right? All righty. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share this information with somebody else. Listen, learn, leverage the information, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now and stay fearless.